Hey everyone, I'm Magnus and welcome back to my channel. Alright, so let's get on with today's video. So in this video, as you can tell by the title, I wanted to talk a little bit more about different types of witches. And mainly because in my last video talking about different types of witches, someone had commented that they wanted to know a bit more about, well, more types. So at the end of that video, I gave a huge list of different types that are out there from another young lady who has a YouTube channel, and she is listed in my previous video. But anyway, so I went through her list and I found 15 more types of witches that I'd like to talk about. Now, on a side note, in my previous video I also mentioned this. I'm not a big fan of labels, types of witches and stuff like that. In my opinion, it can kind of narrow one's path. You get kind of focused on this particular path and it kind of blocks off all these other ones. But at the same time, giving lists like these show the vast types of paths that are out there and the different things that you can incorporate into your practice. So for that, I do like the different labels and types of witches and whatnot. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with the first one. So the first type of witch I'd like to talk about is a sea witch. A sea witch is a practitioner who will incorporate every aspect of the ocean and the beach into their practice. Now, there may be some who only work with certain parts of it, but generally speaking, a sea witch will work with every aspect of the ocean they can, whether it's from the sand to the water itself, even maybe to the breeze coming across from the ocean, or storms that form over the ocean and come across them. A sea witch may work with deities or gods and goddesses of the ocean. So yeah, the next witch I'd like to talk about is a storm witch. Now, a storm witch, I have actually done a little research on this because I was a little confused. I had saw one where a storm witch is someone who works with the elements. Now, from my understanding, that was more of an elemental witch, but they work with the elements to summon storms and try to create storms and stuff like that. But the main type of storm witch that I come across was practitioners who work with storms that have already occurred naturally. They work with the energies from those storms. So they may imbue certain items or tools, crystals, candles, things like that with the energies of the storm into their practice. Or they might only do certain workings while there's a storm. And it might also depend on the type of storm, is the type of working they do. The different seasons bring us different storms, different size storms. We have hurricane season, who might bring a lot larger storm, has a lot more energy behind it. During the winter, there may be a snowstorm, nice and chilly. There may be something, they might want to do some kind of freeze type spells or things or workings. So Storm Witch will work with different storms for different aspects of their practice. Now, the next type of witch I'd like to talk about is a lunar witch. A lunar witch uses the moon in their workings. Now, most witches that I know anyway, love the moon or talk about the moon, the full moon. They work with certain cycles of the moon. But a lunar witch will know exactly what cycle the moon is. They work with it in every single aspect. From every phase of the moon, they will have different workings. They may even do workings that start in one phase and in another phase because of how long the working or the type of intent they want for the working. A lunar witch may even only do certain workings and rituals outside under the moonlight. Now, with that actually leads me into the next type of witch, which is a solar witch. A solar witch is pretty much the exact same thing, except they use the sun instead of the moon. So they may use the sun's energy to imbue into water and have solar water. They may use the sun's energy to charge up their crystals or their candles or other tools within their practice. They may do their rituals outside under the sunlight, you know. Um, so yeah, and that with those two actually leads me into the next type of witch, which is a cosmic witch. Now, like a solar witch and a lunar witch, both which are celestial beings, a cosmic witch uses not only those celestial bodies but the entire solar system. You know, they may use not only from the sun's energy or the moon's energy, they may work with certain celestial events like meteor showers and stuff like that, or certain comets come by. Each one of those has their own very particular energies about them. So a cosmic witch may incorporate those into their workings. They may only do certain type of workings during those type of celestial events. So then the next type of witch that I like to talk about would be a divination witch. Now this is one that I really couldn't find very much information on. I have come across a few people through social media who claimed the title as divination witch, and I asked them a few questions and stuff. So basically, even though a lot of practitioners use different forms of divination within their practice or to assist with their practice, a divination witch may use a multitude of divination techniques to not only like commune with like the spirit world or try to assist with a certain working. They may actually put it into a physical practice or into a ritual. They may use tarot cards that have certain representations placed within their altar or in their circle to draw in a particular intent for a manifestation. So divination witches are really unique because you only hear about a handful of different type of divination techniques like tarot and maybe pendulum, bone casting, um, runes, but there are probably like hundreds. I don't know. There are so many different forms of divination out there. It's really unique. It's really wonderful. Kind of topic to study and to learn about, not just from a point of a divination witch, but just divination in general. Anyway, so then the next witch I want to talk about is a draconic witch. Now, draconic witches work with dragon energies, draconic energies. Now, I don't personally believe that they physically exist in the physical world, but I do believe opinion that they are these draconic energies, and draconic witches work with those energies. Now, there are several books, not several, there are some really good books out there on this, and I happen to have had one some time ago before I was even really knew what I truly believed in. You know, it was more of a gift from someone. I always liked dragons, but the point is that dragons have existed in lore all throughout history from as far as I can remember. You know, as far as I've studied and I can see, there's been pictographs and pictures and writings of dragons, and they're all different from different cultures and different meanings. Well, draconic witch may use different region type. I don't know if I'm going to say that properly, but they may use different draconic energies from different areas, different folklore, different belief systems, and incorporate those into their practices. They may build connections and relationships with these draconic energies specifically for their workings. Um, so then the next one I want to talk about is a Fey Witch. Now, a Fey Witch is a practitioner who works with Fey folk, with fairy folk. Now, a side note on that, I think it's a little dangerous because the fairy folk aren't, I believe, aren't what they have been depicted in TV and media and books and stuff like that. They're not these cute little winged Tinkerbells and stuff flying around. The best example I can give with something that's sort of modern would be like the Spiderwick Chronicles. You know, if you've ever seen that movie or if you've ever read the books, the goblins and stuff in there, those to me, the brownies, those are more of what the fairy folk are really like, I believe. But aside from that, so a Fey Witch is someone who works with these energies. Now, with that being said, just like a Draconic Witch, they build these relationships to work with these folks, with these fairy folk. Sometimes this can take tons and tons, hours of patience and time, but they grow to respect the fairy folk, and they work with them. And the fairy folk may incorporate, the Fae may help, not just incorporate, they may help with their workings. They may help guide them in different paths, or different things they may be trying to do within their path or within their workings. But again, I think that is something I haven't done a whole lot of research on fairy witches, Fey witches, but I had done a fair amount of research on just Fey folk in general. And so I think it's really unique to have a Fey witch and to see how they can build these relationships, knowing the history and stuff and the folklore behind Fae and how dangerous and mischievous and stuff they can be. But so yeah, if there's anyone out there who is a Fae witch or knows a Fae witch who works with the Fae a lot in that aspect, I mean, I work with the Fae a little more. I don't really necessarily work with them. I just kind of give thanks without actually saying thank you. I just give offerings and I leave it at that. It's just a way of showing appreciation without even having to say a word. But that's as far as I go. So if anyone knows any more about Fey witches, feel free to let me know or leave some comments down or whatnot. The next one I'm talking about is a crystal witch. Now, we all have that friend or that witchy friend who carries crystals with them everywhere they go. But a crystal witch will incorporate crystals in pretty much everything they do. And a crystal witch isn't someone who will just have a few crystals here and there. They probably have like a store of crystals, like on shelves and in drawers, in boxes, and just wherever. They have crystals everywhere. That's because they use the energies incorporated, or that's within these crystals and stones to put into their workings, to incorporate into their workings. And they may have a multitude of crystals or stones that they're using at one time. And so, a crystal witch is a witch who will use crystals and stones in pretty much every part of their working. Now, the next witch I'd like to talk about is a candle witch. Candle witches, now we all use fire or use flames or candles or something in our workings, but a candle witch will focus their practice on using candles in some type of way. So they may use the candle for the flame, for the element of fire. They may use the candle for the particular color that the candle has, or they may dress their candles with herbs and oils and stuff like that. They may carve stuff into it, different symbols or words or phrases to have some particular meaning or a particular intent behind it. But they will use candles in almost every single working they do. That is their main focal point into their practice, is the candle. And so they may use one candle, they may use 100 candles, who knows. But to talk to a candle witch, they will be able to give you a lot of information about different ways to imbue and to put your intent into candles to come with it, like to have the best result, The next witch I want to talk about is a demonic witch. Now, this is another witch that I feel can be on a dangerous line, unless you really know what you're doing, unless you take your time, and you're very respectful of the energies that you're working with. Demonic witches will work with demonic energies into their workings. They may help with a simple, basic, everyday ritual or practice or a spell craft of some sort. They may work with these energies to help with their divination practices. They may evoke or even invoke these energies within them or in their space. But a demonic witch uses these energies. They work with these energies in their everyday practices. And going with that, actually, is an angelic witch. An angelic witch does the exact same thing except with angelic energies. Now, on a side note with that, I kind of believe that angelic energies aren't all like beautiful, gigantic wings, white wings, feathery wings, and beautiful people, long white robes and stuff. I think it's more like, Roman warriors and metal armor and guardians and warriors with swords and shields. That's kind of the way I feel about angelic energies, and so I almost feel that kind of with the same respect with working with the Fae or working with demonic energies and stuff like that. I think you still have to have that same very humble and respect towards these angelic energies. I feel they can, even though they're like these guardians and warriors, I feel they can also be like, stop, just like thump you into your place and just put you there. I feel like they're kind of that no bullshit, no nonsense kind of beings. So, again, angelic witches will work with these energies in every aspect of their practice, but they still have a high respect and regards for these beings, and they definitely humble themselves to them. It will definitely take time for them to work with them and to get to know them and to have that relationship with them. So the next type of witch I want to talk about is a sigil witch. Now, a sigil witch is a witch who will create sigils and make sigils in every day, not just like in a blown out full ritual kind of thing, but they may, while they're cooking, they may take the oil that they're using and draw a sigil on their pan or across their food, or drizzle a dressing, some type of dressing across their salad in the form of a sigil, or they may draw it on top of their coffee, or they may be outside gardening and they may draw it into the ground and then dig up their garden or plant their garden or whatever the case may be. Sigil witches will create a sigil for anything and everything, and they do it in the most nonchalant way sometimes. They will have these sigils that will be put up around their home for wards and barriers. They may even, I know a girl who would, or a young lady who would take a permanent marker and draw them on the bottom of her feet, and then she'd put her socks on and shoes on, and she'd go to work or go out for her day. And she had this belief that in her mind, to activate a sigil, you would destroy the sigil. So while she was walking, even though it was with a permanent marker, that sigil would start to fade, would start to, be destroyed. And so throughout her day, she was charging the sigil with the intent, and so therefore it was manifesting throughout the day without even her really having to try, And she had a lot of positive results with this. So a sigil witch will incorporate sigils in everything of their life in so many different ways. So the next witch I want to talk about is a ceremonial witch. Now, a ceremonial witch, these witches will go to very elaborate extremes with their practices. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. Some of these ceremonies can last a few moments. Some of them last several hours. And some of them are so aesthetically beautiful. So much work goes into preparing some of these rituals and these ceremonies that they create. And it's just fascinating. It really is. So a lot of what a lot of simple, especially solitaire practitioners, would do a very small, simple ritual for, a ceremonial witch would kind of expand that and add and elaborate it and add a lot more detail to it. And that's because they connect with these little props, these symbols, these tools, these different things that they use and incorporate into their practice. And that elaborate stuff they're doing, that dramatic stuff they're bringing into their ceremony, charges their intent, charges their purpose, their working. And some of these are just beautiful ceremonies. Anyway, so the last witch I want to talk about is a really kind of a colorful witch. It's actually a color witch. See the pun there? So a color witch will use color in every aspect of their life. From the simplest of things, again, going with food, they may add certain foods that have certain colors to incorporate certain things into their, like certain intentions into their food. So as they eat it, they ingest that intention, that purpose, So they may try to do healing or health, and they may add certain colors that represent that into their foods, and then they would ingest those to help bring healing and health to themselves, or maybe abundance and prosperity to themselves. Um, a color witch may have particular dress on, or a particular suit, particular shorts, particular shirt, or earrings. They may even dye their hair a particular color to draw in a particular intent for that color. So a color witch can use colors in every single thing they do. A color witch, if you are like a newbie, or if you're a kind of witch in the broom closet, so to speak, you can't really have your practice out and about, out loud for everyone to see. Using color is a great way to do it, because um, each color has its own correspondence, its own representation, its own intent. And so if you want to incorporate certain things into your everyday, your mundane life, but you really can't be flashy with your practice, put on a dress or put on some shoes that have a certain color that represents a certain thing that you want for that day. It's that simple. Like, it's amazing. So I enjoyed when I went to do this list and I saw Color Witch. I was quite fascinated to learn a little bit about them and see how different ways they incorporate color into their life. And it's really unique. It's from the simplest to the most extreme ways they can do it. I mean, some people even put certain things like those little bead necklaces and stuff you get. They'll hang them in their car, different color ones, different days, different weeks, or whatever, to have different things, to different correspondences. Or they'll have like a black one in there to kind of help like push away negative energies. They might have a white one in there to kind of draw in some of the positive energies. Or I don't know. It's really unique how color can be incorporated in anything you do like that. So anyway, thank you for watching my video, for sticking around this long. If there is one of these witches that I went over and it was kind of inaccurate, or maybe just not enough information for you, or if I kind of rambled off the point a little bit and you want to know a bit more about it, feel free to let me know in the comments. I will be glad to kind of articulate it a little bit more and give you more detail and more information about it. And for some reason, if I can't give you that information personally, I will do my best to find some sources for you to give you that information. So yeah, also if there's any other types of witches you want to know about in particular, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you got any questions, concerns, or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. If you want to give me a like and a subscribe, that would be amazing. I'd really appreciate it. And anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I thank you again for sticking around. Take care of yourselves. Like I always say, stay safe, be kind, but don't take any shit. Later.